Okay, so the recording has started, and welcome to day 3 of OWCC 2024. We are gradually making progress, and technically we have 2 or approximately 3 days to end this program. Today is no other day but a very, very exciting one, as we'll be having a lot of great things here to do, and also the speaker that is coming up today. Um, I'll keep that as a secret. Okay, so let us know where you are joining us from. Just send your name and also the country you are joining us from, or the region or city or whatever you are joining us from. Just let us know. And also to the volunteers, I hope you guys are all here, and especially to those that will be taking us through with some other things that we have today. So let's move on. And I tried to disable the video and everything because some people, the background is not really good and they will just turn on the video and probably be doing other things. So if you observe, you will not be able to turn on your video at this moment, and also your microphone at this moment. So you can just make use of the chat box. At a later time, we will also open up the video feed and the microphone in case you need to speak or we need to hear from you. So without much delay, Wisa, if you are there, let me check for you here and you can give us our welcome remarks. I send you a notification for you to unmute yourself. Okay. Yeah, so let's get our welcome remarks from this hardworking volunteer, as we say. So if you're there, we say you can just proceed. We say, are you there? Okay, let me see. All right, let me just do this quickly. Because of you, I'm going to. Okay, try to unmute yourself now and go ahead. Try to unmute yourself, we say. Okay, go ahead now.
Yes, I'm okay. Dear participants, we are delighted to extend a warm welcome to you as a participant in our online winter computer program. In our online winter computer program, Computer Concept OWCC 2024 training program. On behalf of our dedicated team, we commend you your enthusiasm and commitment to expanding your knowledge in the exciting field of computer science. Over the course of this program, we aim to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of various concepts and topics that form the backbone of computer science. Whether you are a beginner, eager to dive into the world of coding, or an experienced professional seeking to enhance your skill, we have designed the program to cater to learners of all levels. Our team of experienced speakers, industrial experts, and passionate educators have meticulously curated the materials, among others. Oh, this thing. I'm sorry, coming. That's a little problem here.
Okay, so if you're just joining us, just send in your name and the country you're joining us from. This is day 3 of OWCC 2024. We have roughly 2 to 3 days to end this program, and we are excited to be here today. We also have a well-seasoned speaker for you today, an expert who will be speaking to us shortly. So thank you so much, Wisa, for the introduction. The welcome. Thank you so much. Let me just take it back to. Okay, so let's get some overview of TIT. If you have been here for the first day and the second day, you have already listened to this, but let's play it again just for the record and also for those that are just joining us today.
Teah Innovative Tech, TIT, with the color representation of green, blue, and white. It was founded in 2018. It is our vision to use technologies to transform lives. There are lots of great minds out there, but the opportunities to learn and grow haven't been presented to them. TIT will use technology to provide career guidance, personal development, national transformation, tech events, and much more. TIT is operating on these 4 pillars: develop, build, connect, and impact. These pillars can be applied to individuals, groups, companies, nations, and society at large. Activities of TIT since its establishment have been: 1. Personal development of the founder in terms of higher education and networking with great minds. 2. Producing educational videos about computer science or tech, networking, windowing, programming, IoTs, web development, etc. These videos are being uploaded to TIT various social media platforms like WeChat, Facebook, YouTube, etc. 3. Organizing special classes or tutorials for individuals among others. 4. Web development projects. 5. Conducting global webinars, which are done during the winter and summer seasons, and many others. The prospect of TIT is to establish a free online learning platform and technical schools throughout Africa and the world. The takeaway for the audience are: 1. Exposure to a certain domain, some might be in a state of dilemma. 2. Career or educational guidance. 3. Hands-on from the speakers, practical tips, tools. 4. Connections or networking with like-minded people within the industry. 5. Certification. 6. Future partnership. TIT is open to partnership for the betterment of humanity and society. We can only have a minimally criminal-free environment, job opportunities, small businesses, entrepreneurship, and a vastly growing economy when the minds of young people are geared toward finding solutions through the use of technology. Where there is a lack of creativity and innovation, the nation and its people are doomed to stagnation and economic hardship. So, join us at TIT as we develop, build, connect and impact.
Okay, that was the overview there of TIT. I'll just share a message in the WhatsApp group. I'm going to share shortly in the WeChat group, and I'm going to talk about it shortly. The speaker for tomorrow, he will be doing some practical or some demonstration on what he will be talking about. So he shared the link that people can go and download the Odoo that he will be using. So I'll just share the link in the WhatsApp group. You can download it in advance if you want to follow through with the speaker of tomorrow, as he will be presenting on that. So later on, those on WeChat, I will share the link in a few minutes. So yesterday we talked about this, and this program is going to start up by March of this year. You are encouraged to register. It's going to be in twofold. One, it's going to be on presentation or sharing from the speakers, and then probably another 2 weeks we'll go for group projects. So if you're interested in probably a 1-month training, 1-month webinar, you can also make use of this. The QR code is there on the flyer. You can just scan the QR code and it's going to open up the registration portal. So some of you asked me on WeChat and on WhatsApp about how to register. So just take a screenshot of this now and save it in your phone. Take a screenshot, please, and save it in your phone. The QR code that you see there, you can scan it. Below, you see register. You can scan it and register. So please take a picture or a screenshot of it and keep it so that you can be able to read more about it. Also, the Hoha University 2024 admission process have started. You can also take screenshot or picture of this. Some of you asked me again about it. The link to the application portal is the first one. And if you want to read more about the programs and the other instruction on what you need to do and all of that, is the second link. So take screenshot of this and save it in your phone or whatever you can save it. At the end of today, you can open up your browser, tap in this link, and proceed from there. If you are going through the link or going through the process and you have questions, then you can ask me, but not to give you the link again. The link is already here. Just take a screenshot of it and save it. Later on today, you can open it in your browser. Can you please zoom in? You can use your phone. If you are using your phone for this meeting and you want to zoom in at any point in time, just use your two fingers and then you can be able to zoom in on whatever the person will be sharing. So Zoom gives everyone that option or that feature. So if you're using mobile phone, just use your two fingers and zoom in the screen, and you're going to see a full screen of what you want to see. So Hoa University have 3 campuses. I just put 2 here. One is in Nanjing City, one is in Changzhou City. I said 2 is in Nanjing City, and then one is in Changzhou City, which is the new campus. And the one here, Jianing campus, is the one in Nanjing City. There's another one at Shikanlu, the Gulo district, which is the main campus. And this one is in Changzhou campus. It's the new campus here. So it's a beautiful campus and a beautiful university. And I encourage everyone to register and at least come and join the family here. If you are asked for recommendation, which is possible in the application, feel free to use my information there so that I can be able to keep up with your application. And in case there are any other concern about your application, I can also reach out to you or let you know what is happening. Do not apply without telling me. And then after the colleges have already gone through the vetting process and you have not received document or you don't get updates, then you are so eager now to tell me, oh, I've applied, but it's been long, I'm not getting any update and my visa will be expiring soon. So it's better when you apply, you let me know that you have already applied and send the application number. Then that way we can take it up from there. But if you apply secretly without telling me, and then you are not getting admission in the end, you want to, after the colleges have already gone through the vetting process and you don't get any update, now you want to message me to do anything about it, it's going to be difficult because I can't revert any decision from the colleges. Everything is in the link. If you want to know about tuition and accommodation, everything is in the link. They have different types of scholarships, first, second, and third class scholarships. So the first class, there is no tuition. There is no other fee you're going to pay. Everything is covered up, and there is a monthly stipend of 1,700 for masters, and for PhD, I think it's 2,000. That is a university scholarship. Second class, they will pay everything, but they will not give you monthly stipend. Third class, you will probably pay some other money, maybe tuition or accommodation you will pay. So yeah, that's what I just talked about. So there are three classes. If your documents and everything are good, rest assured probably you'll be in the first class and you'll be getting monthly stipend to take care of yourself as well, and you are not paying any other fees. So on the last day, we're going to be having Bosco. He was with us on our last edition, that is the Summers edition, and he will be here on the last day to talk about his music and everything. If you want to know about him in advance, you can just go to YouTube and you search Bosco_LIB and listen to his music. He have a lot of good music out there. He's also a student He's also a student here in China doing his master's as well, and will be starting his PhD. I think he have already started his PhD already. So he's into academics and also into music, but he will be here to talk more about himself on the last day. I think many of you have seen these pictures. We have many people joining from different countries around the world. So, and many of you guys here are students, and that's why today the discussion is going to be on this whole artificial intelligence things when it comes to education. Everything about education and artificial intelligence, we're going to be discussing it today. So we have volunteers that join or register to help organize this program from different places. And I'm grateful to each and every one of them for their contribution thus far. Alice, or Francine, Ahmed, Miata, Stanley, Nakili, Hossan, Tina, Emmanuel, Shamima, Jala, Joan, Kaju, Salome, Wise, Delphine, Magnus, Agnes, Flomo, Daniel, Topa, and also Nimpan Jalate, Joseph, Evans, Abdullah, Thomas, and the rest of all of you guys, or other people that also share the flyers and also encourage people, though you are not a volunteer, but you also help people to, let them know that this program is going on. And also big appreciation to Laban, Miata, Christopher, and Moi for their contribution as well in making sure that this program become a success. The certificates, I think I showed to you on the first 2 days. I don't know if I should do it again today, but for volunteers, the certificate are already here, and also the cup that you can use. I can't really show you now, but I show you on the first 2 days. They are already here for those volunteers that did extremely well. You're going to be receiving the cups, and for the other volunteers, you're going to get your certificate as well. The next edition, we're going to be recruiting other volunteers. So if you're interested in becoming a volunteer, when the process starts, you just let us know. The certificate that will be issued to you, you can also verify the certificate through our website by visiting titnetwork.org/certificate verification. Or when you visit the website, you just come to training, and right below training, you will see certificate verification. We also put a button right on the homepage of the website. Once you get there, you will see a button that tells you certificate verification. You can click on that and it's going to take you directly to this page. So just enter your certificate ID and you can proceed from there. We had Abel on the first day. We had Teah on yesterday. And today we'll be getting one of the 4 speakers that you're seeing up there, but shortly you're going to be hearing about them. The videos are all out there on the YouTube channel. They are also on Facebook pages as well. So for the different type of certificate we have, you can see here, and the indications are all there for speakers, participants, and volunteers. The certificate ID that you see on the certificate can be used to verify a certificate on TIT website in case you are asked or being questioned about your participation in this program. So the website, the link to it is here. And if you are not in the WhatsApp group, please scan this QR code to join the WhatsApp group, because all of the discussion and attendance and everything are all shared there on a regular. So you can join. If you want to leave, maybe at the end of the program, you are also welcome to leave. If you want to stay, that's fine. But just join as the program is ongoing to keep up with training issues or latest news. Many of you have not subscribed or like or follow out of the TIT platforms. So please try to do so. That way we can reach out to more people, and we can also be able to create more content and all of that for you. So if you check on Facebook, you can use TIT, Your Niche Technology, or Teah Innovative Tech, TIT, to visit our Facebook page and group, and at least you can like or follow and all of that. Also the YouTube channel, just visit YouTube/@TIT6299, or you can just search the name TIT on YouTube or OWCC 2024, and it's going to redirect you to the YouTube channel of TIT. So all of the videos are there, including yesterday section. The videos are all there. You can go and watch the playback. Probably the speaker was talking about something and you did not get it clear or clearly, you can go there and um, and watch the videos. If you are in China, we also have a WeChat group. But since the group have already exceeded more than 300 persons, so you can only be added by invitation. If you want to join the WeChat group, you can scan my QR code here, and I will add you to the WeChat group as the program is ongoing. We also have a WeChat channel. There are a couple of other videos and other things there. You can also follow the WeChat channel as well if you are in China. So on the first day, we talk about different AI tools or website for your productivity. Um, so we talk about ChatGPT and how to access it. The links are all there. Please take a screenshot of this. We already talked about this on day one. So please take a screenshot of it now. And if you are interested in any of these tools, they are all free. So just go there and make use of them. And you can also see the description of what it does and all of that. On yesterday, we talk about additional ones. So you can also take a screenshot of this. And the music or the sound that you hear, many of the time behind the TIT, that music that is playing, that music was created using the option number 2, that is the refusion. If time is permitted later on, I'm going to play that sound. And then you can also validate if it's from AI or not. So all of the tools that we're using for most of our programs, they are all being created by this system. Even the certificate design and all other flyers that we produce, you can see that our flyers are high quality and very, very professional as well. So the last option there, Canvas, you can use it to do all of the flyers, and not just flyer, but even your CV or PPT and everything. You can use Canva to do all of that. So we talked about it yesterday, and because of the time, so let me just give you the 3 list, and then maybe if time is permitted on at the end of the program, then we're going to talk about them more. But you can also take a screenshot of these ones. They are also very important, different tools as well for your different productivity. Depends what you are doing. We continue to share until the last days. Tomorrow there will be new list, and probably at the end of it all, as we'll be sending your certificate, we're going to try as best as possible to see if we can just attach all of the links that we share throughout the days. We're going to see if we can attach it as we'll be sending a certificate to you, so that you can also continue to keep up with the links and other productivity as well. So let's welcome Nakili to introduce our speaker for today. Let me see if I can find you here. So if you are there, I just sent you an invitation to unmute yourself. Okay, you are muted. And if you also want to,
Good morning
okay,
from my
we can
end.
hear you.
Good morning, everyone from my end. I'm Nakili, NC holder, and I'm here today to introduce our speaker for today. So our speaker for today is Dr. Martin Lockstrom. He is the Executive Director of International Institute of Operation Management. He will be speaking to us on Generative Artificial Intelligence, which is AR, in education. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Nakili. Let me just verify that the speaker have already joined. So, just follow the link for tomorrow's session. For tomorrow's session, the speaker have already shared the link of what he will be demonstrating on. I've already shared that link in the WhatsApp group, and I'm going to share in the WeChat group later on as the presentation will be ongoing. So you can download in advance, and if once you download it, and if you need any other guidance, the speaker will be available to drill you through. I'm trying to connect with the speaker of today to see. Okay, I think he's here. Dr. Mountain, I just sent an invitation for you to unmute yourself. So, ladies and gentlemen, without much delay, we will be welcoming Dr. Mountain, who's going to do for us what we have to do today. So can you please try to speak? Let's see if we can hear you, Dr. Mountain.
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, we can hear you. So let me also make sure that you can be able to share your video and also share your screen. So guys, wherever you are, please try to give us an ovation for our speaker in the chat box by welcoming him. Thank you so much for joining Dr. Mountain, and we look forward to an exciting time with you here today. So you can take off from there, Dr. Mountain.
Right, Olano, thank you very much for that. So I hope that you can see me and hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you. We can see the PPT, but I'm not sure if I can see you. Your camera.
Yeah.
Okay, now the camera is on.
Well.
Yeah, it's on now. It's on.
All right.
Okay, that's good.
All right, very good. Yeah, so welcome everyone to this webinar on the topic how AI will shape the future of education. My name is Dr. Martin Lockstrom. I'm a professor of operations management based out of Shanghai in China, where I've spent the past 18 years of my life, so quite a while. So as a educator and academic, of course, we see AI is making inroads into the academic world, so that obviously affects both us as instructors as well as our students. So in my topic here today, I will talk about how the academic world will be affected by the advent and the emergence of AI tools like ChatGPT and so on and so forth. So I'll spend roughly the next 45 minutes or so talking about this topic, and then we will follow up with a 15-minute or so Q&A, depending on the exact timing. So happy to receive your questions toward the end of my session. All right, just as a disclaimer, before I move on to my main topic. This presentation was not generated by ChatGPT. I think it's not a silly statement today, because we all know, those of you that have used tools like ChatGPT, you know how powerful it is. But nevertheless, I don't think there's something we should be ashamed of, right? I think generative AI is a productivity tool like any other that we use in our daily lives. All right, so the agenda for today is as follows. We'll address 4 main questions, basically. So the first one is, what's the point of learning in the first place? Second question, what is AI? Third, how will AI affect education? And fourth, will I have a job in the future? So with that, I refer to myself as an instructor. All right. So reasons for learning, why do we learn in the first place? There are some people that say that, generative AI or your, general artificial intelligence, the AI, basically will become the end of society as we know it. That it will make work obsolete. So once these technologies have become mainstream, there's no point for us to work at all. We can just sit on the couch, back at home and collect money, right? So is that the case? Will that make ourselves happier human beings? I think the answer to that question is most likely no. So I think there will still be a reason for learning in terms of we need to continuously acquire knowledge, in order to make better and more informed decisions in our everyday lives. I think also we as human beings, we also need to learn for the sake of our own personal growth and development. So in management, we often talk about so-called extrinsic and intrinsic incentives. So an extrinsic incentive is an incentive which is coming from the outside. For instance, monetary compensation, the traditional reward systems and so on and so forth. Intrinsic incentives, on the other hand, they come from within ourselves, driven by our own motivation, our sense of self-fulfillment, and so on and so forth. So I think it's important for human well-being to have such intrinsic motivators in place that are generated through personal growth and development. And then I think third point is basically for adaptation and survival. The better knowledge we have, the more skills we have, the better adaptation and survival ability we will have. Now today's society is different from when we were living as cavemen. But nevertheless, I think this is still hold very much true today. And then fourth point is professional and career advancements. If we assume that we will have some sort of jobs and consequently careers in the future, then indeed professional and career advancement are both very important, will remain to be so. So learning is, so to say, the underpinning for that to happen over time. So long story short here, I think that learning in that sense will not become obsolete. So with that as a backdrop, let's move forward. Also, social and cultural engagement as well is the fifth point, also very important, of course. So I think we as human beings, we're social creatures, right? And through the learning process, we also get a lot of social interaction during the learning process. We learn from one another. We teach each other. When we learn in a especially offline environment, there's usually a high degree of socialization as well, and that itself is also important for a mental well-being, basically. So I think that's one of the key draws why people still attend offline education programs, to get that social and cultural element to their lives as well, and also to facilitate networking and so on and so forth, which can help you to gain career opportunities, new career opportunities, and so on and so forth. All right, so let's take a closer look at what do we mean with artificial intelligence. I mean, everyone throw around this term on a daily basis, but do people really know what the term actually means? So basically, AI are systems that think like humans, that act like humans, that can think, rationally. With that, I mean that they can make some sort of, cost benefit analysis in order to, as guidance for decision making. And also systems that act rationally. Um, so AI as a term is not really particularly new. It's been around for more than 70 years. Basically, the term was coined back in the 1950s by a guy called John McCarthy. So back then, computers were basically thought as electronic brains. Alan Turing, the famous British mathematician and cryptographer who cracked the Nazi Germany's Enigma encryption machine. He defined AI intelligence as passing the so-called imitation game. I will talk more about this in a few moments. But back then, computers, they didn't have enough power or memory to solve any useful problems. So I think this is one of the reasons why we have seen an explosion in terms of AI over the past year. So in between, not that much have happened. We've seen a gradual incremental development in AI technologies, like auto-completion and automation of certain systems. We have autopilot in aircraft and so on and so forth. We still don't have adequate autonomy when it comes to autonomous car driving, for instance. It still remains a challenge, particularly surprisingly difficult challenge. But over the past year, we've seen an explosion with the advent of generative AI, large language models, and so on and so forth. So reason for that is basically because of a kind of a breakthrough in terms of, first of all, computational power, with the emergence over the past decade or so with, GPUs, graphical processing units, with a massive parallel computational power, and also an explosion in terms of data that can be harnessed by this computational power. So those two combined, computational power and data access, have led to the breakthrough of large language models over the past year. So in terms of the research in the AI area, have historically mainly been confined to games, like checkers, chess, and so on and so forth. Primitive machine translation, block worlds, neural networks, for instance, such as the perceptron, which is a simplified version of a neuron. Also things like theorem proving and mathematical problem solving as well. So AI, we can basically say it's intelligence demonstrated by machines. We can say it's any device which perceives its environments and correspondingly takes some sort of actions in order to maximize the chance of success according to some sort of objective function that it tries to maximize, whatever that might be. Could be things like profitability, or if it's a self-driving car, don't crash, don't cause accidents, and so on and so forth. We can also say it's machines that mimic cognitive functions of human beings, for instance, learning and problem solving. And then also we have machine learning, which is a special case of AI, where algorithms basically learn and improve from data as the volume of processed data grows over time. So why AI? So basically can have two purposes. So one is to use the power of computers to augment human thinking, just as we use motors to augment human or horsepower. And robotics and expert systems here are major branches of that. And the other one is to use computers, artificial intelligence, to understand how humans think as well. So basically AI works in both ways. So we can look at the human brain and trying to imitate that, but we can also develop AI and based from that get a better understanding of how the human brain works. Let me see. Okay. So basically, we can say that, yeah, so one application area that we use AI to understand the human brain. So how do we determine whether a system or whether a machine is intelligence? And the standard way of doing that is a so-called Turing test. So this test was devised in 1950 by the aforementioned Alan Turing. So it's called the imitation game. So the purpose here is that you ask questions of two entities and you receive answers from both. And if you cannot tell which of these two entities is human, then we should therefore consider the computer version to be intelligent. So you have one human and you have one computer. So if you cannot tell the difference between the two, then we say that the machine has passed the Turing test. So nowadays, though, with for those of you that have tried tools like ChatGPT, for instance, I think those increasingly actually fail the Turing test, not because they are too poor, but because they're too good, right? So you get too well formulated answer, too perfect information, too perfect answers, right? So by being so good, we can infer which is a human and which is the which is a machine here, which is a little bit ironic though. Okay, so if we compare the brain versus computer, so basically we can say that the brain is some sort of computer, and the goal here is to create computer intelligence through programming, just as people are becoming intelligent through learning. But there are some differences, and we can see that the computer is not really like the brain, even if we're trying to imitate it. And the computer performs tasks without understanding really what it's doing. It's still, basically just doing, carrying out tasks as it's being told. So another question, of course, then is, does the brain understand what it's doing when it solves problems? So is this kind of, things like sentience and self-awareness, is that really for real? Or is it just an illusion? These are a couple of questions to ponder. All right, so let's take a further look at the ChatGPT. What is that? So basically, it's an AI-powered language model developed by this company, OpenAI. It used to be a non-for-profit organization, or at least they had a profit cap. Now they have been partially acquired by Microsoft. So nowadays it's neither non-profit nor open source anymore. But anyway, so basically it's trained on a massive amount of text data from the internet, and it basically generates human-like responses to given prompts. Can answer questions, have conversations, generate creative writing pieces, also process data, perform calculations. Nowadays as well, it can even interpret graphical data, so you can upload an image and it can interpret the contents in that image, for instance. So basically, in essence, it is a kind of similar to autocomplete function that you would find in your mobile phone or in Microsoft Word, for instance. But it's much more complex, much more advanced, trained on much more data, and can obviously make predictions in a much more sophisticated way than a regular autocomplete. But at its core, it is a similar technology to autocomplete function. So today it's built on top of OpenAI's GPT 3.5, GPT-4 families of large language models. They have been fine-tuned and supervised using supervised and reinforcement learning techniques. So it was launched in November 2022. Yeah, that was basically, the starting point for this generative AI explosion that we've seen over the past year or so. All right, so what are the advantages of AI-based learning? So first of all, learning can become more personalized. For instance, AI can analyze student data, personalize learning based on their individual needs and preferences, like generating personalized responses, providing tailored support and feedback. Can also adapt the learning on a real-time basis based on student performance. So for instance, if a student is struggling, a generative AI can provide additional support and resources to help the students to master the topic. Intelligent tutoring, where it can provide students with personalized coaching and feedback in order to help them to improve. Can also support with automated grading. So it can basically automate the grading process, which in turn saves teachers time, provides students with immediate feedback. So any of you who have worked in education, you probably know how much time and effort you spend on grading during and toward the end of each semester. So tool like ChatGPT can massively speed up that process. Then also fifth point, smart contents. So generative AI can create and deliver contents that is tailored to the students' needs and preferences. For instance, generating interactive and engaging learning materials such as videos, quizzes, and simulations. So what are the risks of AI tools? So one of the risks, obviously, is that students, they are fed by a much smaller number of sources. In worst case, not just one. So I think this is a little bit the danger at present, because tools like ChatGPT is not always very strong when it comes to referencing and citations. So often the references are false, and also many times the AI kind of pretends to know, even though it's wrong. So there's always a risk of loss of, say, diversity when it comes to the sources that are being used to generate the output. So basically, that means that we, as educators, we need to learn how AI tools can be used in a controlled fashion. Another danger is also that these tools are so good, so that people might start over relying on them. As I depicted on the previous slide, ChatGPT in the shape of a Swiss Army knife, right? So it's a tool which can basically solve any problem, right? So that can lead to a decline in multifacetedness and diversity when it comes to the contents being produced. And also, we as educators, we still need to develop skills to assess whether information is accurate and reliable. And I think that applies to every single, human being in society. So we shouldn't trust the output from large language models blindly. So that requires a certain level of subject matter expertise in order to make that call to assess the quality of the output. And I think also the consequence of AI should also not be to lay off people or making students more idle, but these are tools that should be used in order to increase everybody's productivity, meaning that it helps students to learn more, It helps instructors to teach more effectively and efficiently as well, right? So it's not a tool for downsizing necessarily, but to make ourselves more productive. So is educational AI here to stay? So just some results from a recent survey, which showed that 51% of schools and universities and colleges, they consider using AI as cheating or plagiarism. 29% were neutral and 20% disagreed. 60% of respondents say AI tools will become the norm. 43% of college students say that they have used ChatGPT. I myself did a poll among my students the other week, and it turns out I think it's about 80 to 90% of students are using tools like ChatGPT on a regular basis. So I think it's become, since this survey was done, I think it's become absolutely mainstream. 30% of respondents from this survey also said their schools have imposed ban on the use of AI tools. The academic institutions that I'm working for myself, none of them have explicitly banned the use of AI tools. But there's a lot of discussion, a lot of concerns, about the efficacy of our learning methods as students adopt these new tools. So there's a big concern that, the way we teach and the way students learn right now is becoming increasingly obsolete. So there are a lot of changes that I'm sure will happen, in the coming months and years. I think also, talking about this question, are these tools here to stay? I think without hesitation, the answer is clearly yes here. If we look at this comparison between different social media platforms and apps, ChatGPT has had the fastest adoption rate of any tool or platform in history. So it only took 2 months to reach 100 million global users, faster than any in the past. So I think that itself pretty much speaks for itself about the enormous potential this technology has. I think also another argument is that once you got used to new technology, you can't really live without it. So we can just make a comparison with some other technologies like the light bulb, mobile phone, personal computer, refrigerator, toilet, car, etc., etc. We cannot really live without these, right? Of course, now the PC has been replaced by mobile phone, tablet, computer, laptop, and so on and so forth. But you get my point, right? So, long story short here, once you have embraced a new technology, you're not going to just suddenly stop using it. It's not going to happen, right? So definitely, I would say that generative AI is here to stay for sure. So why has it become so popular? Well, of course, the easy answer is the trivial answer is because it's so good, of course. But if we go a little bit deeper than that, there are a number of reasons why this is the case. First one, because it's based on natural language processing, which makes it extremely user-friendly. So we use natural language in order to make it understand, and also human-like responses to the user queries. So it enables a totally different level of interaction that feels natural and conversational. Also in terms of availability, so you don't need to be able to code or do programming. You don't need any computer skills. It's available 24/7, even for free, if you don't pay for the premium version of ChatGPT, for instance, which makes it very, very convenient and accessible. So I would say normally I tell my students, you know that a technology has potential if your 3-year-old kid or your 80-year-old grandma are able to use it. So, which is, you know, really the case here. It's so simple that pretty much any human being can use them. Also, there's a high degree of customizability, where it can be personalized to individual users, provide customized responses based on preferences, and also past interactions. So this makes the tool more engaging and useful for users. Also in terms of efficiency or productivity, so the user get a quick and accurate response, so it becomes a very valuable tool for a wide range of application, from customer service to educational resources. So, you know, you can use it pretty much for anything. To you can ask questions, fact-based questions. You can even use it to get you know, medical diagnosis. You can have conversations about, you know, emotional problems. You can use it for data processing. It can generate creative contents, even graphics. You know, reformat, reshape data, and so on and so forth. So really, imagination is the limit here. And overall, it helps you become much more productive. So I would say, you know, for me myself, so I do quite a bit of coding as well. Do a lot of data processing in my daily job. So I would say for many tasks, it has increased my own productivity, not only marginally, but some tasks, you know, increased by, you know, tenfold, hundredfold, thousandfold even. You know, things that would have taken me, you know, days or even weeks can often be done in, you know, a matter of seconds or minutes, which is quite incredible indeed. And then the fifth and final factor here is innovation or novelty. So these technologies, they represent a new and innovative approach to communication and problem solving. And this has generated excitement and interest from users and developers. Okay, so then the question is educational AI fundamentally new? This is a relevant question, of course. We've seen that AI as such has been around since the 1950s. So, you know, what's new under the sun here? In a way, we have seen this phenomenon before, where educational technologies have been introduced in the past. So one such example is the introduction of calculators in the classroom back in the 1980s. So as is the case with today, you know, there was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of protest against the use of calculators in the classroom. So here you can see this newspaper article on the left-hand side, that math teachers, they staged a protest against calculator use, right? So already back then, they had a fear that, you know, math teachers would, you know, basically go extinct as calculators were introduced into the classroom. Now, in retrospect, we know that that is not the case. And in education today, you know, we have restrictions on the use of calculators, right? So there are occasions where they are allowed, and there are occasions where they're not permitted, right? So they as well as, you know, generative AI um, should be used, and, you know, will be used in a controlled fashion also in the future, right? And, you know, over the years, you know, if we can, you know, we can go back all the way to 19th century, basically. So having technologies being introduced into the classroom is really not something new. You know, we see a lot of different technologies being introduced over time, you know, things like radio, overhead projector, videotapes, film strips, photocopier, whiteboards, handheld calculators, the World Wide Web, different types of computers, PDAs, social media, and so on and so forth, right? So there over time, you know, in a nutshell, there has been a steady stream of educational technologies being introduced. So again, this is not something new. I think what is new here in this context, in this particular case, is that generative AI, the pace of development is faster, and the pace of adoption is faster than any of the technologies we've seen in history. That would be the big difference, right? But as such, it is not a new phenomenon, per se. So if you look at, the in the industry, in the manufacturing industry, we usually talk about four industrial revolutions, where the first one is mechanization, the second is mass production, the assembly line, electrification. Third one is computer and automation, and fourth are so-called cyber physical systems, where we not only automate processes, but also the decision making is becoming increasingly automated. I would say that generative AI pretty much, should be denoted as a fifth industrial revolution, because, at least in my opinion, it will have such massive and profound effect in all aspects of society, changing so much in the ways that, we live our lives, we do our jobs, and so on and so forth. So it is probably worthwhile denoting it as a new and fifth industrial revolution. So then, of course, a relevant question is whether using educational AI should be considered plagiarism or cheating. So first of all, let's take a look at what we mean with plagiarism. So plagiarism is basically the fraudulent representation of another person's language, thoughts, ideas, or expressions as one owns original work. So that basically means that if you don't take credit or if you don't give credit to other people's work, that is considered plagiarism. However, the traditional definition refers to another person's output. So then the question is, how about, in this case, a chatbot, which is not a person, but an entity? So there are two future scenarios here, first, where AI tools are used to low extent and references as traditional secondary sources. Or second, virtually all text is produced by AI, hence doesn't make sense to reference it all over. So my quick take on this subject is that the large language models, they're obviously not generating new contents, new information from a clean slate. These tools have been trained on existing information available on the internet, right? So that means that in the output from AI tools are, by definition, based on other people's work. So that means that when using AI tools, generative AI in an academic setting, the output from these chatbots should be combined with proper citation and referencing. Personally, I don't think that, like ChatGPT should be provided as a source per se, because they will never be original source, at least not the way that they're functioning today, right? So if you use ChatGPT, I think it's kind of silly to use ChatGPT as a reference or as a citation, because they're just tools to compile and aggregate information. So it's the same thing, when you use Google, for instance, to find information, and you write an academic text, you don't cite Google, you cite the original source. So that's the same thing here. And truth of the matter is that generative AI will become so commonplace that, pretty much everything will be generated by these large language models. So if that were the case, if you would quote ChatGPT, pretty much every sentence would have a reference to ChatGPT, which doesn't really make sense. So I think the only way is for the user to build a certain level of domain expertise to understand the quality of the output and to also study, connect the output of a tool like ChatGPT with the original sources. Use ChatGPT as a discovery tool and find the original sources, read those, and properly reference those sources. In that case, tools like ChatGPT, they can be used without being considered plagiarism, right? Whether you actually learn in that process when you use these generative AI tools and so on, it's a different question. But at least it's not subject to plagiarism. So it brings us to these different, questions, because some people, some academic institutions, they want to outright ban generative AI tools in education. So it raises a number of questions. For instance, like, is AI, is it a tool or is it an entity? So if you say that you ban AI, what about other tools like, Grammarly, Paraphraser like Grammarly, for instance, which uses AI to paraphrase text? Should that also be banned then? Should you ban synonym replacement and predictive writing in software like Microsoft Word, for instance? So the question is, where do you draw the boundary? So those that say that, we should ban AI, they probably haven't, understood how widespread AI is and how ingrained it already is across so many different technologies that we're already using on a day-to-day basis. And I saw the new, AI regulation in I think it was in Europe or the US, that contents generated by AI tools have to be labeled as such. But again, in just a year or a few years from now on, pretty much all contents that we encounter will be generated through AI. So then you have to put the label, generated by AI on pretty much everything, and we will just be flooded, and everything will just be, cluttered by this, generated by AI label. And then my follow-up question is, who cares? Who cares whether it's written by a human being or AI? At least personally, I don't. As long as it's good, as long as it brings me value, I don't really care, right? And I don't think anyone else should either. Uh, and then also, when it comes to, our perception of students, should you ban it and then assume that students are not using it because you have an official ban on using AI? I think that's really, self deceit. I think the question is rather, or let's say the perception should rather be, of course, students are using them. Even if it's permitted, they still will be using AI tools. So I think we should always work under that assumption. Otherwise, we're just fooling ourselves. And then another question is, of course, what kind of skills do we want to help building? Do we want to spoon feed our students with information? Should we serve everything on a silver plate? Should we promote rote learning? Or what kind of skills do we want them to help building? So I think in the future it will be very much about helping our students to actually use AI tools, right? Because when they go out in the job market, prospective employers, they will expect them to be able to use these kind of tools, right? So we we shouldn't sort of say prevent them from learning to use these kind of tools. So over the course of history, we have already transitioned from traditional rote learning, where students are being fed with information, to make them more autonomous, to go out and seek out, analyze their own information. And now, it's the truth of the matter is that, students, they will use these kind of tools, which pretty much automate that process. So in the past, students, how did they do students' assignment? In the past, they took off, went to the library, found some books, read the books, extracted information from those books on a pen and paper, and then they synthesized it into new text. Then came the internet with traditional search engines, like Bing, Google, and so on and so forth, which basically made the physical library obsolete, apart from having a silent place to sit down and read, right? So traditional search engine tools, they massively sped up this information synthesizing process. And now we have generative AI, which can, basically automate that process as well. So this is just like it's just evolution, right? We get increased access to better and better productivity tools to help us seek out, process, synthesize information. So the question is, is there value in doing so, the traditional way, so to speak? And when it comes to, perception of using AI tools, whether that should be considered cheating, my short answer is that they should only be considered cheating on the occasions where they have been explicitly prohibited, right? So it's the same thing, in sports, for instance. You have some strength sports, for instance, powerlifting and bodybuilding and so on and so forth. There are different federations. In some federations, performance enhancing substances, they are prohibited, right? Then you're not supposed to use them. And if you do, you will get punished. And then there are those where these are permitted, and the athletes, they can use them, at their discretion. So it all depends. It cannot be considered cheating unless these tools have been explicitly prohibited. That's my, short answer to this question. Okay, so will AI make education and learning obsolete? You can just take a look at this little comic strip here. So I think my short answer to that is that, throughout the history of mankind, there have always been skills which have become obsolete, and being replaced with new ones, so to say. So if you look at this comic strip here, in prehistoric times, during the Stone Age, there was no such thing as illiteracy, before the written language was invented, right? So it's the same thing here. Nowadays, we're talking about things like, AI literacy and so on and so forth. There was no AI illiteracy before the advent of AI. Now we have AI, like the written language. It means that, if you're going to survive and be relevant in today's and society of the future, you need to be able to use these kind of tools. So this kind of transition has happened, in all parts, across all parts of society, basically. If we take a look at different professions here, you can see across areas like construction, arts, journalism, and so on and so forth, how old skills have been replaced by new skills. So in the past, construction, you used to use to do manual shoveling, for instance. That has become obsolete. Today, you need to be able to operate an excavator in order to work in construction industry. In art, you used to do canvas oil painting, and today you probably need to learn skills like digital airbrushing, and so on and so forth. So you can pretty much read by yourself here in this table. We can just jump to the bottom, where we as educators in the past, we used to teach students knowledge, right? And now we're transitioning to a new skill where we as instructors, we need to teach our students how to learn, right? So it's not only about learning, information, but it's increasingly about learning how to learn, right? So it's kind of a second order capability or a higher order capability that we need to help the students to build here. So I usually say that the future of learning is so-called meta learning. This is basically about learning about one's own learning and learning processes. And that itself is can be an effective tool to help the students to become more independent and self-reflective. Help them to become more proactive and effective learners as well. To give students an opportunity to better understand their own thinking process as well, and also allowing them to perform well despite receiving only small amount of task-specific data. So I think in the past, I think we did this kind of like a, spoon feeding, serving information on a silver plate. And then we transitioned to this kind of synthesizing of information where we try to provide the students with loads of information, and then they have to sift through, analyze, process, digest information, synthesize that into something new. And I think today we're more trying to operate in an environment where, information is scarce, and students themselves, they have to go out and find the right information in order to solve a certain task. So if you look at the traditional learning process, so typically, we start on the left-hand side where we learn about contents, okay, here basically. And then we do, and then we review the contents, and then we apply the content, so to say. So this is some sort of, cyclical loop. And what do I mean with meta learning is we basically add a second layer here, and a second order of abstraction, where we reflect on the learning process as well. So we review the learning, then we learn about the learning. We try to understand, not only in terms of what to learn, but also why we learn, why things are as they are, how we're learning. And then we apply that to future learning so that we gradually, improve this inner learning cycle. So the inner learning cycle, the traditional learning, is obviously increasingly handled by AI. And the future of learning is more at this second outer layer of the learning process. So what are we trying to achieve here? So first of all, we need students need a certain level of AI literacy and critical thinking still, even though, we have these tools, we cannot trust them blindly, especially, because of this phenomena of so-called hallucination, where output is sometimes weird, odd, and, incorrect, and sometimes outright false. So using tools like ChatGPT, they can also be a facilitator for fun as well. But we still need writing skills and subject matter expertise in order to properly judge the quality of the AI tool output. And we want to teach the students to reflect and learn independently as well. So as Elon Musk, he has some famous quote here, as you can see at the lower part of this slide. So for instance, he once said that I hate when people confuse education with intelligence. You can have a bachelor's degree and still be an idiot. I think college is basically for fun and to prove that you can do chores, but it's not for learning. You can learn anything for free. And that's why only 1% succeed, he says. And then finally, don't confuse schooling with education. I didn't go to Harvard, but the people that work for me did, right? So these are some food for thought. So what are the implications for students and educators? First of all, students will use all support tools they can to the extent they're permitted and get away with. Using AI tools are not really the solution because evasion tools are also available, right? So just, even if you use AI detection tools, even if a text comes through as negative or pass the test, that doesn't mean that it has not been generated by AI. We have to keep that in mind. There are a lot of false positive and also false negatives here. So we need to teach students that misuse of AI tools will be at their own detriment, right? So it's like with a calculator. If you have an exam, you're not allowed to use calculator on the exam, but then you use calculator throughout the entire course. Certainly, you will not perform very well on the exam, right? So it's a similar kind of analogy we use here with generative AI. If you misuse it during the course, it will backfire when it comes to the course examination. But anyway, I think it's still important that we as educators we use anti-plagiarism tools in order to make students these are being used and make them a little bit more wary and cautious about the use of them and make sure that they use them but not misuse them. Okay. And I think this is also important to make it clear to demarcate when they're allowed to be used and when they're not, in order to ensure a level playing field toward all the students, so that not some students are using these AI tools and get a good grade, and some students which are compliant and don't use them, work harder, learn more, but at the end of the day, get a worse grade. So for the sake of fairness, we have to be clear about, both telling the students when they're permitted and not, and also ensure compliance to that. So implication for students. So, some decades ago, education emphasized rote learning, memorization. In later stages, there was an increased focus on gathering, analyzing, synthesizing new knowledge. And this process will probably not change much in the future, but it has been, increasingly sped up through the use of and emergence of AI tools. So students still need to develop critical thinking, as I said, in order to assess the quality of the output. And I think, it will become, expected to use AI tools in your daily job in the future. So students need to learn how to use these tools already back in school. For examination, I think implication is that non-real-time written assignments will become obsolete, because this concept of having, written assignments that the students are doing, in an offline environment, as a home examination or something like that. I think this is like, asking the students to do it with generative AI tools. So I think that as an examination form will become increasingly obsolete. And as I said, we cannot prohibit or prevent students from using these tools. The only way we can ensure that is in a controlled environment, where examination takes place in real time. Also, we cannot fully rely on tools to detect cheating as well. As I said, due to the high amount of false positives and negatives and the ease at which these tools can be circumvented. So, by and large, I don't think the phenomenon we're observing right now is very much different compared to, when the calculator was introduced back in the 1980s. Implication for instructors. less role of providing information, less provision of literature. We will spend less time on marking, and instead spending more time on coordination and oversight. I think we also will have to redesign courses and courseware and entire, curricula in order to accommodate a higher learning pace. But the good thing is that the freed up resources can be better spent on things like customized learning, personal interaction with the students, like coaching and mentoring. So we also, as educators, we also need to learn how to use AI-based teaching tools and technologies. Okay. So just conclusion here, speed efficiency associated with learning. Businesses, they always want to do things faster, more efficient, and that will require workers to become more productive. And also we'll see more and more software will have built-in AI support. And to a large extent, we will actually use these tools without even thinking about we're using them. And in the same way as we're not explicitly stating that a piece of text was written on a computer, I think in the future we will also not state whether contents or information has been generated with AI tools. Okay. And as I said, students, they should see it as a productivity tool, but not as a shortcut or to avoid learning. Just a couple of quotes before I finish. So I think the reason why we would be against educational AI is because we as educators, we have failed to adopt it ourselves. And second quote, our biggest failure would be if everyone uses educational AI and we pretend that no one does. And third, this is also what I usually say, is that never fight against technology. You will inevitably lose. And fourth and final, you won't necessarily be replaced by AI itself. Chances are that you will be replaced by someone that does use it. And with that in mind, I conclude my presentation part with this image here. This is a little bit like, looking at AI, like this Rorschach test, whether the glass is half full or half empty. So you can take an optimistic view or a more pessimistic view. And with that, I open up the podium for questions if you have any. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay. Thank you so much, Data Mountain. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, begin to send in your appreciation message as always in the chat box. We're going to take questions from the audience. So just make use of the feature here called raise hand, or you can send your question in the chat box, and we're going to help you to read out your question to the speaker. If you don't want to use the chat box, just use the feature of raise hand. There is a feature here on Zoom. You just go to reaction, and then you can raise your hand using that feature. So while we are waiting these questions, let's take in Tongbot James. James, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. That was some very good presentation. Like I actually enjoyed it. Yeah, and I was just having like this little question. I mean, this small question. I want to know because I'm curious. There are a lot of people who right now like they've heard about AI, they've heard about ChatGPT, and of course the way they are built, it's quite different. Let's say, of course, they're trained on data that's gathered on the internet, and of course, internet is a community that is like full of every kind of thing you might find. You might find the right information, and of course, you might also find an information which is not correct for you, and something that might be biased. Sorry to use that word. And of course, AIs, things like ChatGPT, are like trained on that data. How do we, like someone who is not having that kind of, information, how do they protect themselves, from that sort of, inaccurate data that they might, be getting from ChatGPT in sort of like maybe ChatGPT trying to hallucinate, giving you a false kind of, false kind of information, false data. How are you able, like, to someone who has no idea about that? How are they possibly going to, to to like prevent themselves from from that sort of that sort of problems, that sort of issue? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, so obviously, bias is a serious risk, with these AI tools. But the risk of bias is not something new, right? It existed before the era of AI as well. Bias has always existed. And I think in order to, I don't think the problem is bias itself. And the various attempts to, let's say, eliminate bias, right? But the problem is when you try to eliminate bias, you can only eliminate bias by introducing even more bias against that bias. You see what I mean? It's like bias is kind of like a systematic, tilt in a certain direction. And so I personally, I don't think that bias itself is the risk, or is the problem. The solution to bias is not trying to eliminate bias, but rather become aware of what the bias is and that there is bias, and to acknowledge that you as an individual, you also biased. So I think that the big risk is when you say, no, I'm not biased, I'm biased. That is a bigger problem. It has always existed. I think it will always exist. And if we're trying to eliminate bias, there's also risk that we kind of, omit some information that might become, useful in the future. So, just one case in point here, because what is the truth? Truth is not absolute, right? And it's something that also evolves over time. So, for instance, let's assume that AI, existed, during the medieval times, before the Renaissance. So if you asked, ChatGPT back then, about our solar system, it would have replied that, the Earth is in the middle of the universe and the sun revolves around the Earth. That would have been considered the truth, right? So I think it's if we today trying to define what is the truth, right? And say it's something fixed, it's something static, because truth always evolves as new information emerges, new knowledge comes into existence. So and after in the medieval times, when guys like Giordano Bruno and Galileo and so on, came into existence, they helped us change the worldview, and they discovered that is not the sun revolving around the earth, it's the other way around. It's a earth which orbits around the sun, right? So I think it's dangerous to assume that we have perfect knowledge today, and that there will not uh, be any new knowledge coming into existence which will replace the existing truth, right? So I think we need to have access to a lot of different sources, and encourage people, to go to the original sources, weigh different pieces of information against each other, and it's out of that the a more accurate form of truth emerges, so to say. So I think it's trying to eliminate bias is not the right approach to take, but rather becoming aware of, like, what is the bias, and acknowledge that we as even individuals are biased. So if you're aware of your bias, you can correct for that bias. So that's my, well, now it was a little bit longer answer, but yeah, that's the way I see it in any case. So I don't think that necessarily eliminating bias is the right way to go, because there are different definitions of and views on what is the bias as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
thank
Thank
you.
you so
Really,
much, Dr.
yeah,
Mountain. We have a couple of questions and people are all over this place with a lot of questions, but let's take one from the chat box and then we come back to those that are raising their hand here on Zoom. There's a question here from one Das Narain. It says that I have a question. Can you please tell us how we can use ChatGPT or other AI tools for research purpose effectively to avoid plagiarism?
Um, yeah, so the thing is to avoid plagiarism, my recommendation there would be um well, you can ask like ChatGPT to generate the text, for instance, and generate some academic text with citations and references. But the simple solution here is, don't trust that output blindly. So when you get this output from a tool like ChatGPT, follow up on the original sources. Go to the library, or go to an online library, something like that. Look up the references that ChatGPT provides. Make sure that they are correct, and also read those original sources. That is part of the learning process, right? Don't only read it or get the distilled form in the output of ChatGPT. Use ChatGPT to find relevant literature, and then go back to those original sources, and make sure that your final output for an academic text is it's written by using your own words, and is written using proper citations and references. So as long as you give credit to the original author of the contents, the ideas that you're using, it can never be considered plagiarism by definition.
Okay. So BN, if you are there, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. BN?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Martin, for the splendid presentation. I have a
Thank you.
question, please. My question is, are there international laws or policies governing the use of AI tools in the scientific research world?
No, my short answer there, no, there are no international regulations or anything like that. I mean, we see different policy regulatory frameworks, coming up, in the US, in EU, in China, and so on and so forth. But these more relate to things like, data security, privacy, and so on and so forth. When it comes to, the use of copyrighted information for training of these large language models and so on and so forth. But from an academic point of view, this is something which is typically set by universities and colleges and so on and so forth. So that's typically not at national level. So it's at university level.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So Gaswa Bood, if you are there, please unmute yourself. Gaswa.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can make it.
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, go
Hello, can
ahead.
you hear me? Okay, so my question is, how can one use generative AI and their own cognitive ability to enhance productivity? Because I'm writing, I'm doing a couple of courses where there is this restriction on the use of AI. So how can I better use AI and my own cognitive ability to enhance my productivity?
Yeah. That's a good question. So, I think a good starting point is, to use a tool like ChatGPT, and I simply say, just learning by doing, um, start using it in your daily job, and step by step, as you use it, you will learn, how it works, and you will find new use cases, so to say. So basically, you should treat, in a way, you should treat it like your own personal assistant, like in the way that you communicate with it. Treat it like it's a personal assistant, whether it's about, generating copyright, creative text, performing calculations, or maybe have some data from an Excel spreadsheet that you want to reorganize in column to rows, rows to column, like, these kind of things. So all these kind of like daily tasks that you normally do, at your office desk, many of them can be, if not automated through ChatGPT, can at least be, greatly, increase in terms of speed. So because the tool is so multifaceted that it's hard to say, okay, you should do it like in this and this and this and this way. So the only way I can thing I can say is just start using it, and as time goes by, you will discover more and more areas in which you can use it. There are probably a lot of tools on Skillshare and YouTube and so on and so forth, where you can learn new ways of using it. But by and large, I would say you just start using it, as your daily productivity tool, and just play around, experiment, and you will see that there's so many different areas where you can increase your daily productivity. You can use it, even for route planning, or develop like a travel guide. Let's say you travel to a new country, you can ask it to come up with a travel itinerary and tell you, what kind of things to see and do, and so on and so forth. So it's really imagination is the limit here. So that's my simple answer.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. There are two questions here from Jingpan, but let's take the last one. Um, from Jingpan from the chat box here. She wants to know how. Sorry, let me get up quickly. What role AI plays in addressing global challenges such as climate change or poverty reduction?
Yeah. Climate change. How do we combat climate change? We do that by reducing CO2, right? How can we reduce CO2? The problem means, we have to travel less. We have to emit less CO2. We have to travel less. We have to probably, consume less. We have to replace, fossil fuels with other, renewable energy, and so on and so forth. So I think AI tools can certainly help us, to come up with new solutions to reduce CO2 emissions. Help us, to become work more smartly, in that sense. When it comes to poverty, I think AI tools have a much greater opportunity to alleviate that. So I think, especially now in teaching, AI-based learning tools, for instance, so in let's say poorer countries or poorer regions around the world, where you can use state-of-the-art AI. So in a way, you can help offset, potentially the lack of qualified teachers, for instance. So as I said, I don't think teachers will be eliminated, but I think they can help fill the void of teachers where there is one. I think also these tools, because the cost is so low, so you don't need to live in a wealthy developed country in order to be able to use these kind of tools. As long as you have a internet-enabled device, you will be able to use these kind of tools, and they can help you to increase your productivity, with everyday tasks and so on and so forth. So I think AI will have will be a huge opportunity for poorer regions around the world, make them become more um, productive, help people in these countries to learn and to upgrade and develop their society, and provide more of a level playing field between developed and developing part of the world. So I think we'll have a hugely important and positive impact on the developing part of the world. So it will be a great tool to eliminate poverty, I think, over time. Yeah, they can be deployed at large scale at very low costs. I think that will be a big driver, help these countries to transition from, agrarian and societies to more modern and developed societies over the coming years.
Okay, okay. So let's take Daniel. Volunteer Daniel. Yeah, just unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, sir. I
Thank
think
you.
the presentation was really amazing. Now, my question has to do with plagiarism and AI. Are there plagiarism checkers? I mean, are plagiarism checkers going to be able to detect if an article or an assignment you did using, let's say, ChatGPT or so, especially if you didn't use citations into it?
Yeah. Yeah, so there are a whole lot of AI detection tools out there already, and those more established ones that we use in academia, like Turnitin or Urkund, they have this kind of AI detection functionality, right? But even so, but the problem here is that these tools they can only provide evidence of use, but it's not definitive proof that they have been used. So you can have, for instance, you can have false. There's a certain risk of false positives that a text which has been written by a human being is flagged as written by AI, right? And there are many cases. The risk of false negatives is also quite substantial. So it means a text which has been generated by AI is flagged as not being generated by AI, and these tools are so easy to circumvent. So, for instance, if you use ChatGPT, you let it generate the text, and then after that you let it run through a paraphrasing tool like Grammarly, for instance, and then in most of the cases, the AI detection tool cannot detect that it's been generated by AI. So what I usually say is that there has to be a human being involved in detecting plagiarism, and the tools themselves is not conclusive evidence that these tools have been used. It's only as a, let's say, discovery tool. So if a text is flagged as being written by AI, and it's not being allowed to use AI when producing when writing that text, first of all, then that should warrant further investigation. But nobody should come and say, "Oh, your text has been written by AI." No, I think that's the wrong way of using it. It should be further scrutinized and investigated. What the situation is really like. So we shouldn't trust these tools blindly, because otherwise there's a risk of both false positives and negatives here.
Okay, we have a lot of people, but guys, we cannot take all of the questions because of time. But let's take this one from Cas Lee Nanu from the chat box. He said that I would like to study computational linguistics, a master's program. Can you make me understand how can computational linguistics students leverage ChatGPT to explore and analyze natural language patterns, aiding in the development and validation of linguistic theories, or assisting in the creation of linguistic resources and tools?
Oh, that's a rather technical question. So I'm not a linguist, myself, but I think the topic as such is certainly interesting in a sense that if you want to work with development of new AI tools and help improving existing ones, I think linguistics and computational linguistics are relevant topics, because they help facilitate and promote natural language processing and so on and so forth, make the interaction between human and machines more effective, more efficient, so to say. So I think again, without being an expert in the area, at least to me, off the cuff, it sounds like an interesting area, which should potentially be useful, if you want to work in the area of AI involving large language models in the future. So that would be my short answer to that question.
Okay, Morris Gibson, if you are there, please unmute yourself quickly. Morris Gibson. Morris, if Morris is not there, Bill Chima.
Yeah,
Yeah, please go ahead.
yeah. So let me thank the doctor for the space. I actually got to learn a lot. I mean, after this space, I wouldn't see AI with the same understanding that I had. So AI is a very powerful tool, right? And that it might pose potential risks to academic integrity. So like what are regulations that are put in place to ensure that AI isn't a disruption but rather an enhancement?
Yeah, I mean, in academic research, you basically they basically have the kind of tools that are being used elsewhere in academia, tools, AI detection tools, and plagiarism tools like Turnitin and so on and so forth, right? So you can check for plagiarism and potential use of AI, but as I said, I have a kind of quite harsh view of things here. So personally, I simply expect a lot of academic papers to be written or generated to a large extent by AI in the future. But of course, the thing is, generative AI, they're based on existing knowledge, right? Meaning that when you publish an academic paper, for instance, there has to be a certain level of originality, right? So these large language models, they don't really provide originality. They're just based on existing knowledge. So I think in order to generate or assure the originality, that has to be that can only be achieved through original research, done by human beings, basically. You conduct an experiment, you make observations, you gather data, but along that process, there will for sure be use of AI tools, for the data processing, for producing the actual copy of the paper text and so on and so forth. So I don't think AI will in any way like replace us as researchers, but it will be used throughout the research process. But as I said, the originality can only come from a human being actually, carrying out some sort of research work, right? And if that step is skipped, it will just be some, basically rehash of existing research, something like that, and that will be almost certainly, discovered in one way or the other. So I think overall, to a large extent, research process will be done by AI, but there are certain things which shouldn't be and cannot be replaced by AI either. So it's not like, you're going from human generated 100% to 100% AI generated. That's not how it works. It's like a spectrum, between 0 to 100%, and through the emergence of generative AI, a larger extent will be generated by AI, but it will not become like 100% and making human beings obsolete in that process. Not really.
Okay, so we take two more questions and we call it a day on this Q&A. Inache, if you are there, please unmute yourself. Inache.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
From Liberia, I just want to ask one question on AI tools. So how can AI tools enhance personalization and targeting in digital marketing campaign to improve customer engagement and increase conversion rates?
Yeah, that's a good question. When you say personal, if you want something which is tied to you yourself as a person, I mean, ideally, you should write it yourself. Uh, Generative AI tools, they can, of course, generate output which sounds and feel personal, but whether it pertains to your own true personality, that's a different story. But long story short, like when you generate a copy for, let's say, advertising campaign or something like that, or an advertisement, then you can instruct a tool like ChatGPT to write in a different style. You can ask it or you can instruct it about certain specifics about the way it should generate that output. You could ask it to write in a emotional style, or in a funny style, or in a serious style, or in a salesy style, or something like that, right? So again, it's all about how you interact, what kind of prompts you feed it with, so to say, and then in that way you can generate contents which is line with your requirements and expectations. That's my short answer to that question.
Okay, so
Thank you so
guys,
much.
because of the
Welcome.
time, what is going to happen is this: we already have somebody's taking the attendance in the back, but let's take this last question from Jan K. Ondi. Jan,
Yes,
you can go ahead.
thank you for the presentation, Dr. Martins.
My
My
pleasure.
question is, if AIs become smarter than human, will it be able to do things under its own will? And do you think we could control it again?
Okay, yeah. There are different schools of thought here. Some are more pessimistic, and they say that we might end up with some sort of a Terminator machine which will start killing human beings. Um, I think that can only happen if you deliberately program it to do that. If you are a truly genuinely evil human being, you can of course come up with AI which can have negative outcomes. But I don't think a good AI will suddenly turn evil. That I think the chance is virtually zero, because AI is usually driven by some sort of objective function, right? And as long as that uh, objective function, what that might be, you're trying to maximize something, you're trying to maximize profitability, or if you have a car, make sure it stays on the road and doesn't cause accidents, something like that. You have some sort of objective function. As long as that objective function is hard coded, it cannot just suddenly change and turn evil. All right. So it's the same with us as human beings. Um, we don't walk around and then just like lightning from a clear blue sky, we turn totally evil and trying to kill people and trying to take over the world or whatever. So in the same way that we as human beings don't just change like that, normal AI also, will not change like that. There will be AI which will be used for malicious purposes, to commit crime, fraud, extortion. They will be used in weapons, like, in terms of, uh, guided missiles and so on and so forth. Of course, that will happen. But a good AI will not turn evil just spontaneously. That's not going to happen.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Mountain. Thank you so much for being here today. We highly appreciate, and we look forward to having you in the future. Thank you so much. And yeah,
My
it was a
pleasure.
wonderful time we had. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you. Thanks
guys.
for participating, everyone.
So just turn on your cameras if you can. Let's just take the attendance for today, and right after that, we call it a day. Um, Yeah, just stand on your cameras. Let's just do this, and right after this, we. Okay.
The
If your
cameras
camera
are
cannot
still
turn on,
disabled.
it's no problem. Just stick there. We going to help with that.
Okay.
We also have a backup going on, so just in case you don't see yourself at any point in time in the attendance we're going to share, um, you can always go to the YouTube channel. The video will be there. The video for yesterday and the day before yesterday are already online. So you can go there and watch the playback. Right after here, maybe within 30 minutes or so, the video for today will be on the YouTube channel as well. You can go there, watch the playback just in case you need to understand certain things or you want to as well verify your attendance record. Try to download the software tomorrow. Is the presentation for the person that will be using that software. So the speaker just share the link. We should already share in both groups, the WhatsApp and the WeChat group. You can try to download the software in advance if you want to follow whatever the presenter will be sharing or doing tomorrow. Just wait 2 more slides and then you are free to leave. Just wait 2 more. And thank you so much for joining. Tomorrow is day 4. So if you complete your day 4, then you will be getting closer to day 5, at which time you'll be qualified to get a certificate. So we talked already about all the other things, including the AI tools and websites. So you can just go back to the YouTube and watch the video from the beginning in case you miss some other discussions. You can just go back there and watch the video. Okay, so the last one, and you can all leave if you want to. Let me check the last one here. Okay, just a minute. Just a minute, and we be good for today. All right, all right. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining. We have already taken the attendance. The record will be shared in the group.
Thank
So
you,
you can verify.
CEO. Thank you very much.
Okay, guys.